Reese returns and he's got mothballs, pipes, ammonia, all the ingredients for like explosives. How did he buy all? If he bought all of this stuff today,
In the
you
one
would
place. He must
in
have bought
one
them in separate places.
instant arrests,
Yeah.
instantly
Yeah.
arrested, or put on a watch list. Hello, welcome to Coming Along, a show where I bring my friends along and we talk about stuff. And today we're starting a epic journey through time as we talk about one of the greatest science fiction franchises in cinema history, the Terminator. It's a film that made the careers of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Today I'm with streamer and retro enthusiast and professional Irishman, Retro Ghost. 1985. Thank you very much for joining me.
No problem, Gene. Thanks for having me.
So, we're going to talk about Terminator today. We're going to start with Terminator 1. Just tell me a little bit about... You're a pretty big fan of Terminator, right?
Oh, that's an understatement.
Yes.
An absolute understatement. My first cinema love. Was very young when I saw it, as you probably were. We're very similar ages, and just such a lasting effect on me. For me, and possibly for you as well, Terminator 2 was the first I've seen. Would you be the same?
I think it was the case, yeah, because that came out that was 1991. I would have been about 4 or 5-ish, and I think I caught it on TV probably when I was about 6 or 7, maybe. And then the first one was being repeated on TV around the same time, as they tend to do when sequels comes out.
Yeah, so like for me, going back to see Terminator 1, it kind of, because of the slight drop in special effects and technical quality. As a child, I kind of viewed it as a B movie by comparison, because I didn't really understand film production and where things start from and where they go. So it was a cool trip going back and watching it. And as I got older, obviously I developed probably more of an appreciation for the first one in terms of it setting up the story.
Oh, definitely. Like it. Just going through bits of trivia and behind the scenes details about the franchise, and when you think about it, like Terminator, the first one, it was really like the first sort of major paradoxical time travel storyline. It was the first one that really pushed the concept of a cyborg in Hollywood. Like there'd been sort of elements of that in maybe science fiction shows like The Outer Limits, which we will come on to later. I'm sure you know what I'm referring to.
I certainly do.
But yeah, I don't think there'd been anything like this in a film before, and it's become sort of the
Cameron did admit that his initial inspiration for the Terminator was kind of taken from, like, physically and in his movements, Mike Myers from the Halloween franchise. The kind of, you shoot him, he keeps coming, can't put him down. There was an element of that.
There's the element of the unstoppable foe, definitely, but Michael Myers was he's flesh and blood for all intents and purposes. This was the first time I think, at least I can't think of another film that's lasted in the zeitgeist of cinema as much as the Terminator, and how that sort of became the mold in a way for other sort of time travel storylines and concepts involving, cyborgs and things like that. It really popularized, I think, that genre.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start at the very beginning with Terminator
2029. Because one way of looking at it is it kind of starts in 2029.
Yes. 2029. So yes, Terminator 1, it starts off in 2029, as you said. As you said, it's not very far off.
Nope.
And we get this little text scroll, which basically lays out the groundwork. It's exposition, but it's very simple and
quick and to the point.
Very quick and to the point. We're just going to get right into it. 2029, machines rise after nuclear Armageddon. with the intent to destroy all human life. But the fight won't be fought in the future. It will be fought here tonight. Here we go. We go into the incredible
Brad Fiedel score.
Brad Fiedel score. The
yes.
13:10 off tempo. It's become synonymous.
It's iconic.
Yes, the mechanical realization of it, like the tempo itself is very mechanical and machine-like, but the quality of the those sort of, I don't know how you describe it. They're very metal, very clanky. It feels like the Terminator is coming to get you, and I think he even said that in interviews after the film had been made, and behind the scenes documentaries, he's talking about that's what what James Cameron was trying to go for, was this repetitive, it's coming,
impending doom.
Yes.
Yeah, like Cameron was definitely on that kind of line of thinking, but Brad Fiedel said that it was like the heartbeat of the machine. He wanted to be like ones and zeros, digital, no emotion. And funnily enough, the first, everyone thinks, when you think Terminator, everyone thinks the that's more from the second film on. The original theme is more
yeah,
and then the lead comes in, and the lead motif always reoccurs. For me, from T3 on, when they decided to go orchestral and actually record it on strings, it just doesn't have the same punch. It doesn't have the same resonance. In T2, it is a string effect, but it is still Brad Fiedel, just with a synth. And it's a one-man score for the first two films. There are orchestral notes and strings, but it's all synthesized. So for me, the punch is lost from T3 on.
But yeah, we have this. We have the iconic Brad Fiedel Terminator theme, the original arrangement, and the text. I love the effect of the Terminator text sort of crossing and fading across itself, and then it's revealed and it backs out. And we fade
Cut to Griffith Observatory.
The Griffith Observatory in LA. Guy's picking up trash, and all of a sudden his car the truck just loses its power. He's like, what the hell's going on here? There's a flash of electricity, flash of light, explosion. The guy runs off, and there he is, stark
in all his glory, not his naked glory.
It's a full moon tonight in LA. Yeah.
What's wrong with this picture?
Yes, what's wrong with this picture? Arnie's there, just happily with his tackle out, and it's just like it's something very much of the 80s and 90s. Like they very desperately tried to get a penis on screen in lots of films at this time, but it always had to be sort of like slightly shadowed or obscured or whatever. But boy, it's pretty. I don't know if I watched a digitally remastered edition or something, but it was pretty clear on the one I watched recently.
Funnily enough, in the second film and in the new version, can't believe we're talking about the actor's nuts here, but we'll run with it. Yeah, like in the original cut of T2, you could see Robert Patrick's junk poking out from his leg, but they've digitally removed it in the 3D version.
Oh, I bet he was pissed about that. Okay, but yeah, what's wrong with this picture? Arnie strolls up to three punks. One of them, Bill Paxton, the late Bill Paxton.
One and only.
And he's I think it's still true. He's the only actor to have been killed by an alien, a predator, and a Terminator on screen.
That is true. However, there is a wild card, and I don't know. I'm on the fence about this because at the end of the day, it's all fiction. It's just a bit of fun. But Lance Henriksen kind of qualifies. Spoilers for a few films here, folks, if you haven't seen them. But all of this is
you
spoilers. Shouldn't be listening to this.
All of this is spoilers.
So obviously Terminator 1.
Yes.
He's killed in the police station. And
Alien versus Predator.
Alien versus Predator, yes. Which again is not strictly to the Alien or Predator canon. It exists as its own separate canon.
Oh, but he was still killed by a Predator and on Terminator on screen so far. And I guess you're saying Aliens is the next one.
Well, does the Queen Alien kill him, or does Ripley kill him in Alien 3 when she powers him down?
That's the thing.
It's the kind of wild card. It's kind of caveat.
I mean, if he was human, he would have been killed by the Queen. Like, he got ripped in
That's
half.
true.
But yeah, we'll put an asterisk. We'll put an asterisk.
I always do. Yeah, I always say it's kind of like the wild card or the kind of, a exception to the rule.
Yeah. But Bill Paxton then is the one and only true article. He's the only actor to have been actually killed by all of these things on screen.
In mainline canon films, not in spin-offs or anything like that.
Yes. And there's also one of the other punks. I don't know the guy's name. The guy with the really strong cheekbones. He's the alien bounty hunter in X-Files, and he's been in all sorts of like films and TV shows like Star Treks and things. It's usually like aliens or big monster characters.
Is he the guy who won't stop staring down at Arnie?
he's the guy who's looking through the telescope, and Bill's like, "Hey, it's my turn."
Yeah.
Arnie dispenses with them very quickly after they refuse to give him their clothes, and the last surviving punk gives him his jacket and his trousers, knowing very smartly, knowing that he is screwed.
And I never thought of that actually. Does he live or die?
We never
don't know.
Never find out. I wouldn't be surprised if no witnesses, well, no gun at this point, whatever. We then, I believe, cut straight to another alleyway, and Reese arrives. Kyle Reese. He steals a hobo's pants. Hey, buddy, did you just see a real bright light? I love that guy. And the cops chase him down, but Reese ambushes him, steals his gun, and then demands he tells him the date.
12 May, Thursday.
What year?
Why is that wrong?
He says it May 12th, Thursday.
Well, no, it's actually 12th of May, 1984 wasn't
a Thursday.
It was a Saturday. And the reason this is because originally they were going to shoot it to be released and set in 1983. But because they had to delay production, because Dino De Laurentiis wanted to keep Arnie on, he sort of had it in his contract. No, I won't let him go until he's finished filming. I think it was the Conan sequel.
And they missed that in the screenplay.
Yeah, it's not a big thing they didn't think about it. They they kept it as it is, and then there we go. It's it's a wrong date. Just a lovely little fact there. Cool thing about the production delay as well is it allowed Cameron time to start the pre-production work on Aliens. So bit of a benefit there. We got another great film out of this. Reese eventually escapes the cops, manages to get himself a shotgun, and
a little bit of Nike product placement thrown in there as well.
A bit of Nike product. Well, it's a low budget film. They got to get their money from somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Both the Terminator and Kyle look up phone books, and they look up the name Sarah Connor. There's 3 of them. And then we cut to Linda Hamilton riding her scooter to work.
Scooter.
And I find this music, the theme they play for her, it's a bit...
It's strange, yeah.
Yeah, I expected Carly Simon to turn up and like, "Baby, you're the best." It stands out amongst the rest of this very mechanical score.
I think it highlights her innocence. That her innocence is about to be shattered.
Definitely,
it's so cheery and so cutesy, and here's just this young 20-something girl going to work, and her. She's got a minimum wage job. She doesn't care. She's happy. She's just happy to be going about her life. And literally, it's about to fall apart in minutes. Because she goes into the break room. Her friend's like, "Hey, Sarah, you got to see this. It's about you." Well, kind of. And you're dead, honey. There's a sinister tone to. Is it Ginger? It's the same girl she lives with.
It's
a different one.
It's a different person. I until I rewatched this yesterday, I always thought it was the same person. I never noticed. It's a completely different friend called Nancy.
Okay, 80s hair. They both have similar hair.
God, what a shit place to work, by the way. Hey. God, I'd hate to work there. It looks like terrible, moody customers. Kids put ice cream in your apron.
And asshole colleagues.
Yeah. Oh, although her friend has a very, very like sort of foreboding line.
Look at it this way: in 100 years, who's gonna care?
Yeah, that's a chilling one. Chilling
Yeah.
line. Nice bit of foreshadowing.
Indeed. You say 20-something. Now, how old do you think she is meant to be in this film?
24, 25.
I mean, that's a fair assessment, considering at the time Linda Hamilton was in her sort of mid-late 20s when filming it, I believe. She's meant to be 19, apparently.
Okay.
I just reading it up earlier, just said, yeah, Linda Hamilton plays Sarah Connor, a 19-year-old waitress in LA, and who's going to be the mother of the future. And I'm like, oh, okay.
There is quite the discrepancy in not in Sarah's age, but in his age, John. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Maybe go on.
T1 set in 1984.
Yep.
But T2 set in 1995. And
so John would technically be about 10 years old.
Yeah, but he clearly
he's about 13.
Edward Furlong is like 13, 14. Like, I don't know. Well, actually, I do. I was about to say I don't know any 10-year-olds that go around on scrambler bikes, but actually, yes, I do. But in LA in the mid to early 90s, you know, kids wouldn't have been allowed to drive around the streets and the rivers like he was. I know it's a film. I know it's
he was a bit of a reprobate though, wasn't he? A bit of a tearaway.
Yeah, and I suppose they're really trying to hammer that home. But there is an element, if you focus on it too much, it's just he's not 10.
He's definitely not 10. Yeah.
Definitely not 10. He's too old to be 10. But we can touch on that later.
Yeah. Terminator visits a gun shop. It's Dick Miller. Character actor. I know him best from the Gremlins films. It's one of those things. Sorry, I laugh when I just picture him fighting that gargoyle gremlin in New York, and it's a superimposed shot, and he's obviously reacting. Yeah, in the second film, and he's obviously reacting to it, but everyone else is just like average day in New York.
One small issue I have with that scene, it's a brilliant scene, chilling, just shows the efficiency of the Terminator and how focused he is on his goal. But wouldn't a super smart machine like the Terminator know that there aren't phased plasma rifles in the 40-watt range in 1984?
you think
is he just chancing his arm? He might have one. Check the back.
You'd think so, but I guess like they do, like Kyle does say later on something about like Skynet's historical records were damaged. They didn't know Sarah Connor's address, what she looked like. They just knew she lived in LA in 1984. So
yeah,
I mean, you can stretch that to sort
of explain it away with that. Yeah,
a little bit, but yeah, I get your point.
It's a fudgy moment.
You should know, but I guess it's an excuse for Dick Miller to be like, pal, it's just what you see here.
Just what you see.
One thing that just made me laugh about that scene was he's like, oh, yeah, we got a 15-day waiting period on the pistols. Rifles, you can take them right now. America.
I don't think that's changed much either.
No. But yeah, Dick Miller's like, hey, you can't load the gun. He's like, wrong. And yeah, thank you for coming, Dick. We rest in peace.
I think I may close early today.
So armed and dangerous, the Terminator goes out searching for the Sarah Connors. We get a lovely shot of him pulling up and crushing a child's semi-truck that's left in the road. Bit of a foreshadowing, maybe. He goes up to the front door. Sarah Connor. Yes. First one down. And it's
now you've probably seen brutal. The different edits. There's the first time I saw that film, I think it was on the equivalent of ITV that we got over here on the east coast of Ireland. HTV would be the Welsh version. It was Welsh up till about 5 p.m. and then it would change to English programming.
Right.
And I remember catching it on that one night, and I'd always purposely as a child try and record the different. If it was ever on, I'd record it because I'd notice. There was a lot of editing for TV, even say RoboCop back then, is a totally different version.
Yeah. Now you saying about the edits. Now, when I first saw this scene, he just shoots one shot. But when the version I saw yesterday, he shoots
There's
once
loads.
and then bang, 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 bang. Like it's a
Yeah.
proper. It makes the headline mean more sense when they say execution style killing. Right.
Brutally shot to death in her home. Yeah, Sarah
yeah.
Connor, a mother of two, brutally shot to death in her home. It's like he shoots her 7, 8, maybe 9 times. It's just it's vicious. Whereas the original take that we saw, and probably a good thing, like because when we saw these, we were very small. Obviously the late 80s, early 90s, the video nasty period, as they called it. I had the VHS era, the golden days of these type of films. It was one shot, boom, cut to scene, and it wasn't as impactful. Like it's much more sinister when you watch it now.
Absolutely, yeah. There's one thing in rewatching Terminator that struck me is, are they trying to sort of make you think? Is James Cameron trying to keep you uncertain as to whether Reese is a good guy and Terminator is a bad guy? Because I know obviously we see Arnie kill the Sarah Connors, or we hear about him killing them, and we see Reese fighting against the Terminators in his dreams and the flashbacks. But when he's following Sarah, they really play it off like he's a proper stalker.
Yeah, yeah. Which kind of it's kind of. I feel like
an idea was lost in translation during production. Then, like maybe James Cameron started off initially going, "I want to keep it very vague as to who's the good guy, who's the bad guy."
Yeah,
and then maybe someone like during production, maybe Gail Ann Hurd, producer and co-writer, was like, "No, we need to maybe give this a bit more, be a bit more obvious about what's happening here." So have Arnie properly execute the first Sarah Connor, maybe. I don't know. It just feels that there's just some discrepancies here and there.
It's like he was thinking, it's like after the fact, he was like, okay, now here's an opportunity to keep the audience on their toes. But that's kind of already ruined by the Terminator taking out the first Sarah Connor.
Reese's flashback or his nightmare.
Yes.
I love the portrayal of the future in this film in particular. It's the dirtiest, mankiest looking way of living.
It's grim.
Later films, like it still looks dirty, but there's still some sort of semblance of like organization and some sort of like I know the resistance movement is all connected, so they're all working together, but like in this film it feels like it's a real shambles, whereas in T4 it's like there's some sort of infrastructure. There's safe zones and
they have equipment. They've got helicopters that still work. And...
Like in this, they've just got guns mounted on the back of old rusty pickup trucks. It's not a formal weapon, like a formal military vehicle, like a tank or something. It's so ramshackle, and I think it really made me dread this future that Reese is trying to sort of not prevent, but sort of stop it becoming the eternal future beyond, like the end of the human race.
For me, the imagery of the rats scrabbling for food, it kind of parallels. We're the rats, humans. The resistance are the rats in the underground bunkers, and the image of the fire in the TV and the child just staring into this fire. It's like that's kind of almost a commentary on media brainwashing. Maybe.
I was going to say that's a very David Lynch. It's all the violence in the TV. But yeah, great. That's a little bit ahead further on. That's like a dream that Sarah has, I think, isn't it? When the Terminator comes in and starts shooting up the place, and you see the kid watching the TV with the fire in it. All of those sequences looking at the future, just terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
We pick up at the police station with Paul Winfield playing, I think he's the sergeant, and
Lieutenant Traxler.
Lieutenant Traxler, and Lance Henriksen, who has Vukovic.
Yeah, it's like an Eastern European name. I always butcher it myself.
Yeah. Paul Winfield, great actor. I remember him most from his couple of appearances in the Star Trek franchise. And Lance Henriksen, who is a prominent science fiction horror actor. He's been in this. He's been in Terminator, in Alien films, in Predator film, Star of Millennium, and the original actor to play the Terminator before Arnie came in.
Considered for you've surely seen the concept artwork.
Yes, like a sort of his very gaunt face with the half face of the Terminator underneath. I love the idea. I think what Lance Henriksen could have been as a Terminator is what we got later on with maybe
From Robert Patrick.
Not so much Robert Patrick, because he's a bit more subdued, at least in his body type, but he has got a very he's got a death stare on him. I was actually thinking the guy who plays the Terminator in Dark Fate.
Yes, he's more
very, he's very
he could blend into a crowd. He's a perfect infiltrator. That was the original idea, keep him looking like an everyman, someone you'd see in the newsagents or in the pub.
Not this 6 foot Austrian hunk. Who stands out of the crowd,
instantly. Cameron kind of caved on that because Arnie's star was on the rise. The Conan films had been a success, and he was just starting to become a household name. So it made sense from a marketing perspective.
He was originally going to be Kyle Reese, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kyle Reese. I'm here to save you. I remember seeing a stand-up comic once on TV ages ago, and he just made the best point about Arnold's film career. It's just like Arnold's in a shootout in LA, and he's like a cop, and he's like, "Come on, Joey, we got to get out of here. Come on, we got to go now." And no one ever turns and goes, "Man, where the fuck are you from? You are not American. How did you become a police officer?" So we're with Paul Winfield and Lance Henriksen, and they're piecing together that Sarah Connor dead, Sarah Louise Connor, and they start piecing shit. So we've got a killer going around killing someone who shares the same name.
Goddamn phone book killer.
Yep. That's something I was going to say. I absolutely love these guys are they're tertiary characters. They're only in a few scenes, but quality to the writing. They've got so much life in them already.
They're brilliant.
Paul Winfield, as soon as he comes on screen, just like looking down at his whatever he's looking at, like his notepad or something, he's got his coffee in his hand. He's got this very casual sort of gait to him. You just like instantly know the kind of policeman he is. He's a good cop, doesn't take no shit. And then Vukovic comes in and he's like chatting away, chat. I love all the times he's like, shut up. Yeah. They're great. They're a great pair, and it's so full of character through such very short time on screen.
Funny you mention how short their time on screen is. There was a scene deleted that shows that Traxler actually really he's just on the cusp of really believing them. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Come on, Ed. That was moon talk. The guy's a wacko, right? He better be.
And I think this was picked up later on with J.K. Simmons' character in Genesis. That was that idea kind of regurgitated and executed poorly. But there's an element of their characters that we still didn't make through to the original film.
But they're still strong in the short bits they have, though. Really like them together. They were good act, double act. Sarah sees news reports. Initially she's going to go out on a double date with her friend Ginger and their boyfriends, but she gets a call. Her date's pulling out, so she goes out on her own, and Ginger stays in with her boyfriend and has a lot of 80s sex. At the bar restaurant where Sarah is, she hears on the news of a second Sarah Connor killing. She starts getting worried, so she leaves the restaurant, and then she notices she's being followed by someone and gives him the slip, and she hides in Tech Noir.
The birth of a genre.
Yes. This was intentionally named by the production team because they wanted to sort of inspire in the critics a sort of, I guess, a new buzzword, a new genre buzzword. This is tech noir, the dark side of technology. And I think as a name, as a gimmick for a name for a sort of genre, sounds cool.
It works.
As a club, I wouldn't be caught dead in the head.
I can't really think of any films that really took that baton and ran with it. You know, like I think of the tech noir films. I think of T1 and T2. And
Blade Runner as well, maybe.
Blade Runner was 82,
Yeah,
83.
But it's still that sort of. I mean, it came before Terminator, but I like it's still that sort of same idea of maybe, this is the dark side of technology, not necessarily in like the replicants of Blade Runner are, terrible killing machines like Terminator, but they're a slave race essentially, and they're doomed to die eventually, and that's a very dark sort.
Depends on your model.
True.
Are you Nexus 5 or Nexus 6?
Yes. I love the fact that the Terminator nearly fails his mission. He turns up at Sarah's address, kills Ginger and her boyfriend, and he's just about to leave when Sarah calls and says, "Oh, it's Sarah. I'm still alive."
Yeah, what would he have done if that voicemail hadn't come through? This is what I love about these films. There's so much packed into them, so much nuance. That's something that's never crossed my mind because it does happen pretty quick. He's reloading his gun.
Well, there's a couple of moments like that in the franchise. Like there's a couple in T2 which I'll mention. There's one which I absolutely love. We'll get to that. Yeah, Sarah's hiding out in the club. She calls the police. She gets in touch with Draxler. Is that not Draxler?
Yes. Yeah, Lieutenant Traxler. Yeah,
Traxler. Sorry, not Draxler's a Star Trek character. I think he gets in touch with Traxler and he says, "We're going to send someone over there. Don't worry, you're in a public place. You'll be fine." No, she bloody won't. Terminator finds her. And there's that. It's one of my favorite bits in the film. Just the music slowly sort of fades out into this ominous sort of rising sort of chord of tension. It's all slow motion. The Terminator slowly walks over to her, pulls the gun out. The red dot, the dancing in slow motion around them. And God damn it, woman in the red, just is it? I don't know if she's in red or whatever. Get out of Kyle's way. She's going left, going right, and just I think that's a good bit of editing because every time I watch that, I'm going, no, get out of the way. He's gonna kill her. I know Reese is gonna save her, but every time it's just very tense, and it gets you on the edge of the seat, and then holy shit, it all kicks off.
The edit just speeds back up, and it's boom, boom, boom. Yeah. The music stopped, and then it's just chaos.
And I love the Brad Fiedel again coming in. He has that lovely sort of dirt playing sort of subtly in the background. Yeah, it's not a fast-paced like do sort of action thing. It keeps that tempo, mechanical rhythm. This is the Terminator doing its work. This is what it's designed for, and it's great. And then we have the famous line,
"Come with me if you want to live."
Which I love how that became Arnie's line.
Yeah,
in popular culture. When he's not even the first person to say it. We have a chase sequence. Arnie runs through the club. He runs down the alleyway. They hotwire a car. He has that awesome shot where he punches through the windscreen. And I believe that was a mechanical arm they used. They rigged it up on Arnie's shoulder. So his real arm is down by his side. And this thing is a mechanical arm pushing
like a pneumatic rod.
Yeah. And so it smashes through. And because that shot's in a weird sort of slow motion effect. So I guess that's done to hide.
To hide the mechanical effects, but also to try and capture that smoke, that mist that's coming off him after he's leapt out of the fire.
Yes, yeah, that's awesome.
That was actually an acid type concoction that they put on him. That was actually literally burning, and it actually irritated his skin.
My eyes, the goggles, nothing.
There's acid in my eyes, Jim. What are you doing to me?
Oh god, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But again, why this is why I keep going back to these films. It's because everything looks so realistic. It's so authentic. And well, more so in this film, like it's all practical effects. It's all we don't know how to do this, but we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure out a way to do this. Just the Stan Winston's techniques are just they were just so ahead of their time.
And there's a lot of sort of by the skin of your teeth sort of prop making and designing in this. There's a bit I only learned about later at the end, which I thought was impressive, was the final shot with the pneumatic press over the
eye.
Terminator's eye. Yeah, tin
cigarette
foil,
smoke.
the cigarette
Yeah.
smoke, the presses of foam painted silver, like, and that was all done on the set very quickly. It's a credit to Stan Winston's genius, really, and James Cameron
Winging
as
it.
well. Yeah, they both they work together so well on all of their films. Kyle and Sarah eventually get away from the Terminator. They lose him and they hide out in a parking lot, car park. I've never noticed this, but as they're swerving into the car park, a hubcap comes off the car and just rolls down the hill. Never noticed that. I thought it was brilliant.
I don't think they planned it.
No, but Jim's like, we can't afford to reshoot it. Let's just get going. We haven't even got a permit to film here.
That was a lot of the case. That was the case in a lot of scenes.
Yeah. We get the full exposition throughout all of this chase and into the car park, where Carl explains to Sarah that he's a Terminator. He's sent back to kill you. I'm here to protect you.
He's not a robot.
Not a robot.
Cyborg.
Cybernetic organism, T101 model. Yeah, something I only realized when I was going through these films again. T101 is the skin. T800 is the skeleton.
The chassis.
Yeah, the chassis, yes. Never knew about that. Whilst we get some exposition in this plot, we don't get everything. And this then leads us on to the scenes at the police station. We get another chase with Arnie. He tracks them down, but Reese and Sarah calls him to crash. The police show up, and the Terminator damaged retreats, which I always thought was weird.
He just disappears. Like it's so because he's not a stealthy unit.
No.
You know, he's big, he's brash. That always threw me as a kid as well. It's just like, where did he go?
Because like later in the film, he's even more damaged, and he's still coming after her. He isn't like, oh, I need to go repair my legs. He just keeps going.
I guess with the amount of police that had showed up, he was kind of like, but a Terminator wouldn't do that. Like,
no, they wouldn't be able to stop him. He just
because he goes back and takes out all the police.
Yeah, exactly. But I always just thought it was a weird thing.
I think it's just a mechanic to give the viewers a bit of downtime, because that leads then into. No, the downtime comes afterwards.
Well,
in the
pace wise, I can see it does make sense to sort of, for the, like you say, for the downtime. I guess if you wanted to spin it this way, you could say that because it had some serious damage to its face and its eye,
didn't have full vision, couldn't see
didn't have
properly.
full vision, yeah. So maybe needed to adjust for that. You could also say that because it's a very obvious bit of damage, it affects his ability to infiltrate. So he needed to go back, repair, and then cover up.
Stick on some shades.
Yeah. So you could say it was him going back to, repair vision and his infiltration. But even then, he still had one working eye. He could have just gotten out, gun, and just mission accomplished.
It's definitely from a structure standpoint, to try. Maybe it's is it the start of the second act? It kind of is a natural point for the start of the second act, really.
Yeah, I'd say
you've had your character introductions, you've had your exposition all done on the fly, and then
pretty much. It's an act 2 starting point. Now you say all the exposition has been done. I did love how they used a mixture of the actual scene of Reese with the therapist talking about the more nitty gritty details of like, so why couldn't you come back with some like weapons? Oh, because
I didn't build the fucking thing.
I didn't build the fucking thing. He says you can't take metal back, only organic organisms. That's why it was a T101 model, because it was covered in flesh. So it could.
Yeah, the line he uses is it's something to do with the field generated by living tissue, which is in itself is very vague. He doesn't really understand it. It's something to do with the field, and that always gives things a bit of wiggle room. But again, later on, there is actually that rule does get broken, which we'll get to.
Well, I guess it's like the field of living tissue, well, because humans do produce like what is
static
it?
electricity.
Yeah, we produce like an enough electrical current to match this or something in our bodies or something stupid like that, or enough energy. So I can understand. It's passable law, it's very vague. But it's detailed enough that we get it. Like I couldn't bring weapons back. I had to come back naked. Why couldn't Skynet kill John in the future? Oh, we'd already beaten them. They were going to lose. This is the only way they could do it. And they intersplice that with bits of the video as well later on. So you don't get it all lumped in that one scene with Sarah. You get it bits and pieces. And I love the Dr. Silverman. As a character. Just as he comes and he's like, oh yeah, I'm a clinical psychologist. Yeah. Was he crazy? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. He's very by the book, sort of.
Yeah.
A very real, and like the cops, a very sort of fleshed out character in a very short time we see him. The cops doing more sort of like, Sarah, this is body armor. Like you can shoot a 12 gauge shotgun round into it and you'd be perfectly fine. Oh, but what about when he punched through the windscreen? Oh, the guy must have been on PCP. Wouldn't have felt a thing if he broke every bone in his hand, etc., etc. And there's more.
They're poking the holes in Reese's story, and for a brief moment, she's kind of like, "Yeah, this guy's crazy."
She just thinks it's possible. She thinks for a moment in the car with Reese, he's telling the truth, and then just here now, yes, it's like, oh, maybe he is actually crazy. And we get another one of those moments where the cop's like earlier, he says, you're in a public place, you'll be fine. In here, he's like, you'll be fine. This couch is really comfy and there's 30 cops in this building. You're going to be fine. God damn it, Paul Winfield, stop saying this stuff to her. Because every time you say something, it goes to shit. And boy, it does go to shit.
I'll be back.
That moment, there's people can go on all day about how Arnie challenged Jim about the line. I find something much more fascinating with that line, and I link it again, skipping ahead to the second film, but just to link those two moments, the delivery of the I'll be back line. People just think it's a throwaway catchphrase. I like to think of it as in the first film, when he leans in carefully and says, I'll be back. The machine has already made its decision. Like, I'm coming back in with the car. He's giving me. There's an object in my path, and I'm going to steamroll through it. But the parallel with that thought process, I know it's AI, but the parallel to Uncle Bob, the good T800 in T2, when he looks at John and says, "Stay here, I'll be back." For me, that's the moment where Uncle Bob starts to understand human psychology. Because he's just made the decision to go out there, kick ass, but not hurt anyone, not kill anyone. He messes people up in that scene, but he doesn't kill anyone. So for me, it's more than just a throwaway cool catchphrase. It's the moment that the machines make their decisions, almost. And with the parallel being Uncle Bob making a wholesome decision. He's keeping his promise to John.
He is back. Terminator rams his car into the police station reception area, killing the guy behind the desk, and goes on a mega rampage. He kills everybody. He kills Draxler. He kills Yukovich. Lance Henriksen's character. He kills every sort of uniformed officer in that building. Doesn't kill Kyle and Sarah. They manage to get away just by the skin of their teeth. They ditch the car and they hide under a bridge. And this is a really good scene, I think. It was
nearly a lot worse. Have you seen the deleted scene from that section?
No, do tell.
Sarah's still kind of the mindset that he's crazy, and that him and the machine are in on it. And there's an ensuing chase, and Sarah tries to run away through the woods, and Reese pulls a gun on her and talks her down. And it's like, whoa, I can see why they cut it out, because his mission is at all costs keep her alive, and here he is
About to shoot
pointing
her.
a gun at her. It doesn't work. And then he breaks down and starts crying, which kind of takes away from his. He does show vulnerability throughout the film.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But this just goes too far with it. I can really see why it was cut.
No, that then just that then really changes sort of like the context of when they hook up later. Like,
which comes very soon afterwards. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that paints it more as almost like a bit of a Stockholm syndrome kind of.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was very glad that that's not what we got. Instead, we get really good scene where Kyle talks a bit about the future, talks a bit about John, the message that he gives to Carl to tell Sarah that you must be strong through these dark times ahead. Otherwise I'll never exist. And Sarah's just like, I didn't want this. I didn't fucking want this life. This has been forced upon me. Like, why should
Stop talking about things that I haven't even done yet.
Yeah. Sarah discovers that Reese is injured, and she's like, oh God, you got shot? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And she really is like, no, God, no, we gotta patch it up. And that just shows like where Kyle is as a person, like all he's experienced, like, oh, I've been shot like this tons of times and I've been fine. And where Sarah is now, even though she's been exposed to this violence very recently, and she's still she's not the person that she's going to be yet. Like, she's still.
But it's the beginning of her journey.
Yeah,
it's the beginning of her learning how to do a basic field dressing.
Yes, I love that. Like, it's my first one, and it's a pretty good field dressing. He says,
and with Reese being, no, I don't want to say obsessed because that sounds a bit creepy, but say having a crush on her from the Polaroid that John gave him in the future. Which,
he's enamored.
John gives because he knows. It's kind of poetic that she learned to do her first field dressing on you. There's no way he could have known that because he hasn't gone back through time yet. It's a throw the head for a loop.
Definitely. No, it's a great little scene. It's the genesis of, I think, their love for each other, and it's the real starting point, I think, where she's just like she's like really confronting this like destiny that she's got to live, and she's pissed off about it. But my God, she's started now with this field dressing.
It's almost a sense of acceptance. It's the beginning of her going, right, I kind of have to tackle this, right? This guy's not crazy. I've just seen this machine wipe out a whole police station of cops, so I kind of have to suck this up.
Exactly.
Get on with it. He's all I've got. Let's do this.
She's had a cathartic release. I haven't even done this yet. And now, okay, this is it. Let's crack on. We have the nightmare scene that we mentioned earlier of the girl looking at the fire in the TV. One thing I love about that sequence is the Terminator in the silhouette with the red eyes.
Uncle Columbo.
Oh, just scared the shit out of me as a kid. Like,
it's creepy.
It's one thing seeing the metal skeleton, and it's one thing seeing Arnie as, flesh Terminator, but seeing something that looks human, has the shape of a human and thus the weight of a human, but has these glowing red eyes, demon eyes, just looking at you. Ooh, that's an image that stuck with me a lot as a kid. Definitely shouldn't have seen that when I was young.
From a like a lore perspective, I always wondered, how did that work? Because as a kid, I thought when he plops out his eyeball in the sink that it was actually like a grown human eyeball sat into the socket, but it turns out it's actually like a lens. And then I thought to myself, well, when in these shots, especially, that's the only real time in the film outside in any of the films aside from promotional material, where the shot where for T2 where Arnie comes out of the machine and he lights his eyes up red. Why would an infiltrator purposely have the ability to light up his eyes red enough that it goes through the lenses? It's a dead giveaway.
It could be possible. It's maybe it's like a sort of
because it looks cool.
Well, no.
Screenplay says so.
I mean, it does look cool. I mean, you can two ways that you can look at it. One, it's a nightmare Sarah's having from what Reese has told her, so her mind's warping all of this imagery together. Two, maybe Terminators, they have like like the Predator, they have different sort of visual
Different fields of vision.
settings, and so that setting that it's on is on ultra long range vision kill mode, but they don't have it on all the time because it would show the glowing lights. I don't know. Maybe it is just like you say, the screenplay calls for a dramatic image, so
it looks cool.
And
I know,
it
but
does
you
look
know,
fucking cool.
you've touched on something very, very good there, because that's her interpretation of what Reese's future looks like.
It's her dreaming, because he says like,
It's her dream, yeah.
She falls asleep while he's saying, yeah, we had the dogs, we'd go out on patrol, and then she falls asleep, and then she sort of pictures this. So I always saw it as being it's Sarah's dream. Almost.
It's literally on my TV right now.
Just one thing we didn't actually mention is the scene where Arnie's repairing himself. We didn't actually properly talk over like when he cuts the eye out. That's one of the scenes that was heavily edited for TV when I first saw it. Watching it again recently, I think it's the one time there's a flaw in the effects in this film, and it's not necessarily in the quality of the effects. It's more they linger too much on this animatronic head of Arnie.
Could have been shot darker. They lit it too much, I think.
Shot darker, from some slightly shorter takes on it, because there's one take after he's put the glasses on and he just goes left, right, and it's so
obvious it's a puppet.
Yeah, even by standards of 1984, I think this would have been even a bit ropey. Like, still impressive, but this is one of those things where like you just a bit more trimming down on the editing and you would have and the lighting, and you would have absolutely nailed it, because there's shots where they use fake mannequins later on, like in the truck. There's a few shots just to get the depthness of the flesh and under on top of the skeleton that they use an animatronic head. And because it's lit dark, it's a very quick shot.
It looks a lot better. Yeah,
it looks incredible. Yeah. So I think this is the only real failure of not failure, but the only real bad point of the film, like a really bad point, is just these shots here. Just you can't suspend your disbelief as easily.
In that scene, it's an element of it kind of breaks the immersion a little. It's a stupid little thing that I nitpick over. The little pat of the hair, the little fixing of the hair. It's like he's just lost his eye. He's not gonna care if his part is correct, you know. It's just is the Terminator vain?
Terminator's in this film, he's just on the mission. He doesn't give a shit about his hairstyle. I do like, this is the one bit of comedy, one time where comedy in Terminator does work for me.
Fuck you, asshole.
And he has all the options.
Yeah. And one of my favorite bits in this whole film comes up literally just after this. He's got the address book of he's gone to Sarah's mother's cabin. No, he's got Sarah's diary, and he's finding the mother's cabin's address, and he leaves the apartment and he's walking down the corridor with these guns in his arms, and the camera's ahead of him and it goes down the corridor, and he's walking down and he passes someone in the corridor and he just goes, God damn.
It's very risky. Why is the Terminator? It's like you said in when it cuts back to the car crash, after when he disappears, when all the cops swarm in. We both kind of deduce. You kind of want to explain it away by saying, right, he can't see properly, or he can't take them all on. He wants to get back into his kind of infiltrator mode, be less obvious. But then 20 minutes later, he's strutting around with an AK-47 and a shotgun in each arm.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's just one of those little nitpicky things, and that just kind of throws me off. It's like he becomes very reckless. It's almost, again, there's more human behavior creeping into this first Terminator. He's getting frustrated, and he's cleverly found a way to try and get to Sarah through the diary, through the mother's address.
Like you say, there's just some inconsistencies in his behavior. He's either completely determined and focused and driven, or he's pissed
off.
He's pissed off, or he's scowling at the sun because the sun's too bright. And Arnie obviously is like, oh, it's too bright out. There's a lot of that early on in the film. Reese and Sarah, they arrive at a motel. Reese has all this like crumpled up money in his pocket, and just thought, wow, just John Connor in the second film when he has his his ATM card reader thing, and he gets all that wad of money out, and I just thought, wow, you're just like John, and John is
That's
just like
cool.
you.
I never made that connection. Yeah, there's just a big wad of money.
I don't think it's obviously meant to be stated as such. I don't think T2 was made and that shot was made with that in mind, but it just made me think, oh yeah, just a loose connection there. And it's at this point I noticed Reese is still wearing his tramp pants with all like the shit on them. I'm like, surely the police should have given him some clean clothes, like, because not just for him, but for them, because surely all that bird shit in like enclosed spaces is like, not healthy for you,
I like. How did he get into the nightclub in the dirty pants? It's like that episode of The Inbetweeners when they're trying to get into the nightclub with the pissy shoes.
Oh, it's tech noir, not club scum. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Reese goes out to do some shopping, and while he does that, Sarah calls her mum and says, "I can't tell you where I am. It's too dangerous." And, "Oh, honey, come on, I'm worried sick here." I'm like, Terminator's doing a good job impersonating human speech patterns, even though he can't actually replicate a normal speech pattern for himself.
He
As a
dropped it at the
standard.
end, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a very sinister tone to the "I love you too, sweetheart."
Yes.
There's no warmth in it. It's cold.
Cool panning shot though across to Arnie in the cabin where you just see the doors smashed in, and you're like, shit. Oh crap.
And it's it's slowly revealed to us that the mother's dead. But the beauty of films of that from that period as well, imagining how it went down, we don't even know what Sarah's mother looked like. She's never shown. You only hear her voice being replicated by the Terminator. So it kind of praised him. How did he do it? How long did it take?
The suggestion of something is always
way more terrifying.
Way more terrifying. And in the case of like censoring words in TV programs, I feel like censoring swear words and stuff is sometimes more
impactful.
For what they're actually saying. Like, it's more fun to imagine what they could be saying than what they actually say. Reese returns and he's got mothballs, pipes, ammonia, all the ingredients for like explosives. How did he buy if he bought all of this stuff today?
In the one place. He must have bought them in separate places.
Instant arrests. Yeah. Instantly arrested. Or put on a watch list. He teaches her to make plastic explosive. Another little moment of them bonding together, but also her, slowly learning the skills that she'll need to pass on to John. And it's sort of at this point that I go like, so hasn't Skynet essentially ensured its own destruction by sending a Terminator back? Because by sending a Terminator back, humans send Reese back. Reese saves Sarah, impregnates her to make John Connor. He teaches her techniques that he'd pass on to John. So it's Skynet, by sending a Terminator back, has ensured its own destruction, technically, in a weird way.
In a way, because
they motivate her to become stronger.
In the original edit of the film, and you've probably seen these deleted scenes, the factory at the end of T1, it's not in the set canon, it's not, but in the original edit, it was Cyberdyne Systems. It was like an early startup of Cyberdyne Systems, and it's by finding the chip and the arm that Cyberdyne went from being this one small little industrial factory to this huge mega corporation with AI learning machines. So the paradox of it all is, not only does Skynet create by trying to destroy John, it creates itself, but also dooms itself. It's very nuanced, but even with that scene removed, you remove the fact that factory at the end of Terminator 1 is Cyberdyne Systems. If you're leading into the second film, it does ensure that Cyberdyne Systems gets destroyed. So in a sense, dooming itself earlier than predicted.
Yes, yeah. Like when we finish going through all the films, there is a sort of thing I want to talk about, timelines and stuff, like what is no longer canon, because it's such a mess. Sarah and Kyle bang. Let's just put it that way. They bang. They have that that typical 80s sex scene, the hair flicks back and the rolling
I'll tell
of
you
the
something
eyes.
funny about that scene. Not strictly about the scene, but obviously when I was like 6 or 7 watching this film regularly, if the parents were around, they'd purposely fast forward that point, right? It's like, no, you're not looking at that. Obviously, when they weren't around, I'd watch it, and probably the first time I saw a boob, to be honest.
Oh, that's that Irish Catholic upbringing. Oh man.
And yeah, like I this is funny, or you might remember this as well. Actually, do you remember on morning TV back in the early 90s, they'd show like a 7-minute preview of the new episode of Power Rangers that was going to be shown after school? Does that ring a bell?
Vaguely, yeah.
So I had forgot. I thought the videotape that I'd recorded Terminator 1 on was paused or stopped after the credits of the film. But what I'd forgotten was, my mother had come in, saw this sex scene about to start, stopped it, and I forgot to go back to it. So for about 2 years until I got another copy of it or re-recorded it, my version of Terminator 1 leading right up to the sex scene, and then it would just go, 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 Power Rangers. And you got 7 minutes of Power Rangers, and then it would kick back into the chase scene.
Oh my God.
It was a bit jarring. But once my parents saw that scene had actually been recorded over, they were like, oh yeah, we don't need to kind of hover over your shoulder there or monitor that anymore. I was like, yeah, brilliant. Film's ruined.
Oh God. I mean, to be honest though, you don't really miss much between the sex scene and the chase. It's literally they have sex, they get dressed, the dog starts barking, the Terminator has found them.
Pretty much, you're into the end game then. You're into the final act.
This is the final bit. Terminator busts in, shoots up the apartment, but they've already left. They escape in a vehicle. Terminator gets on his bike, and they have. I really love this chase through the tunnel with the pipes. Something about the lighting as well. Like really, because when
almost a strobing effect.
Yeah, and when the explosions go off, the smoke fills up a good chunk of like the tunnel, and then you just see the Terminator just come through. He's just still coming. He gets closer and closer and closer. Kyle throws another explosive, but the Terminator clips him, shoots him, and he's injured. And Sarah, enraged, rams into the Terminator, but she also loses control of the truck, and they keel over. Terminator hijacks a petrol tanker. Get out,
because if you're chasing someone, you got to get something that's bigger, slower. It takes corners poorly. But again, that just shows the mindset of the machine. It's like just go.
Yeah. And it's not like there was anything else on the road at that time. From the looks of it, it was
he wouldn't care if there was.
Quiet night. And this is also when I noticed, like, a lot of the driving scenes, the chase scenes in the film, lots of empty streets. Like, I know it's nighttime, but it's LA. LA doesn't really sleep. There's usually still a couple of cars on the road and things like that, but this is pretty much all bare, and that's obviously because
it's obviously from a safety standpoint, but
they close the roads, and they haven't got the budget to get other stunt drivers to fill in the gaps
and the insurance costs.
Yes, exactly. Sarah and Kyle, they just run because they haven't got another vehicle. They just got to keep going. Kyle's injured. He falls over, and he just tells Sarah, "Run!" She keeps going. One thing I didn't know about this scene. Sarah's running on a broken ankle.
Yeah, Linda Hamilton actually had a broken ankle in that scene.
Yeah,
you kind of see it in a few shots, but
you can see it just limping, hopping a little bit. Yeah, just ever so slightly.
Just a testament to how much of a badass she is.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like she's definitely methoding that scene as Sarah. Like she's using her drive to get her going. When the Terminator passes Kyle, he slips a plastic explosive into the exhaust pipe of the tank. It blows up in what I did not know until recently was a model shot.
Miniature. It's brilliant. It's one of the best model shots ever done. I think it's is it a quarter scale?
I think it's,
or maybe 110.
I think it's 1/10. For the video footage I saw of it, the models looked kind of small, so I think it's 1/10 scale, maybe. And they had to do it twice because the first time they did it, the front axle of the truck that it was being pulled along, the wire actually
It rips out. I've seen that, yeah.
and they were already blowing up the charges, so they're like, "We got to make another model."
To do it all again.
But yeah, no, it's a seamless shot. It looks great, and you see the Terminator sort of trying to get its way out of the wreckage. It slumps over, it's flesh melting, and I love this because it just the head just turns and looks at Sarah.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh fuck.
Is it looking at her, or is it just
Yeah.
going into a temporary standby mode before it reboots?
Yep, temporary standby. This Terminator has performed an illegal operation.
Like, my only gripe with that shot, and I get it, it's a storytelling mechanic. How do we get its flesh off and get it off quickly so we can finally reveal to the audience that, you know, the monster is inside the man, whereas, you know, previous creature movies had put, you know, the costume over the actor, whereas the machine is inside, is under the flesh. How do you really portray that? And I really like now again, it's a bit rushed, but in Terminator Salvation, the grenade to the Arnie T-800 that you see at the end of the film. I know they had to do it quickly because back then de-aging CGI cost a bomb. So they're like, great, we've got 10 seconds of footage of him and we're just going to take the flesh off.
Yeah.
But even after he gets fully burnt, there's chunks of flesh on the Salvation T-800. There's bits of it on the breastplate, and, you know, bits of muscle sinew left on the bicep. And I was like, that's cool. Whereas in T1, and again, they had very basic methods.
It's
but
too clean. It's too
clean.
Yeah.
There's no scorching. There's no. I know it's what metal do they say it's made of? It's a hyperalloy combat chassis, but what metals are making up the alloy? Titanium. I'm sure that scorches. I'm not a metallurgist. I don't know, but that's one of my only gripes. I'll even forgive the stop motion down the corridor. It's ropey, but I just always think it's too clean.
Yeah, I don't like the stop motion when it's chasing them. It's a little bit. It sticks out too much for me.
Yeah.
I would have almost rather they just did. You know, like how it's crawling towards them, and you see its legs. I would have just liked shots like that. Just a shot of the leg stepping down, a shot of the arm moving, a shot of the head looking upper body, looking round for it. Those, because there's a big discrepancy between how fast the stop motion Terminator moves and how the real puppet moves, how fast it moves. Like the stop motion's going, and then the other ones, then it's the puppet. It's just
which is sitting on an actor's shoulders.
Yes, exactly.
The upper torso, so it has that more human glide to it.
Yeah.
But the little plot mechanic they threw in there to explain the limp almost. He's busted his Achilles tendon, if you want to call it that.
Yes, you notice it. That one little tiny wire has snapped.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. It explains why they can't have the Terminator walk normally like it has been throughout the film, because in Salvation, that T-800 walks and moves regularly, very human-like. So it gives it a reason to be stilted in movement. I just wish the stop motion and the puppetry was matched up just that little bit more. We're in the final scene now. They're in the factory. Kyle switches on loads of the machinery, and this is what you were saying earlier about this meant to be like the sort of prelude to Cyberdyne systems, because there's loads of things that labels like, let's say, like robotic systems, etc., and like the whole automation nature of this factory. I can definitely see this was going to be somewhere where, you know, Cyberdyne could have
come from.
Yeah, where it's had its roots. Yes.
There is a shot of the sign. So Reese is put in the deleted scene. Reese is put into the ambulance. Camera pans up, and there it is, you know, written over the door. So it's not a case of, you know, fans have kind of started this myth of, you know, ooh, it's Cyberdyne. It's in there. There's a scene filmed.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And in a way, it kind of, and they're talking about, hey, we found something. Come and take a look. Come and take a look at this. And Sarah's off in their ambulance, and it's like it's the loop. Skynet has inadvertently created its destroyer, but it's also created itself.
Kyle is very badly injured at this point. Sarah has to become the leader here. He's like, on your feet, soldier, on your feet. Another sign of her taking charge, becoming the strong person she's destined to be. Terminator catches up with them. Kyle desperately tries to fend it off, but no avail. Terminator just slaps him down like a backhand.
And it's such a visceral backhand, and it's very dismissive. It's just like,
it's proper,
get out of my face.
Smack. Yeah, and Kyle sells it well. He like flies backwards. But he takes out the last plastic explosive, lights it without Terminator knowing, and as the Terminator's about to grab him, he reaches up, shoves it in his ribcage, rolls back down the stairs, and boom, the Terminator is blown in half. You get this nice clank of the legs landing down, and ka-chunk, that's it, it's done. Sarah, oh god, like contortionist Linda Hamilton with her legs sort of bent backwards.
And a broken ankle.
She's hiding the bit of metal. It's a good reveal shot, actually. She moves her leg a tiny bit and she whimpers. Like, what's that? She then wrenches her leg around and you see the shard of metal and she just rips it out.
Scream really sells it.
Yeah, good selling, but she's still very tough. She goes over to Kyle and sadly he's died in the blast. She's heartbroken. But then something moves in the background. Oh my god, the Terminator's still alive. Now, I don't know whether that was the puppeteers just getting ready to move it, or whether that was an intentional twitch. But that twitch, I'm always waiting for it whenever I watch the film. When I see it, I'm just like, oh god. And there it goes. The Terminator top half is still alive. The music in this is slasher horror film music.
Yeah, it's really kicked into Halloween territory almost.
It's like the highest pitch the music's been at this point. I think it's like the pinnacle of it. It's non-stop. It keeps going. Sarah's crawling, and she just manages to get out of this conveyor belt and pull down this grid. The Terminator reaches its arm through, and you have some wonderful shots from both their perspectives. The arm out at Sarah, just barely touching her, and from Sarah's perspective, you see the arm just centimeters away from the lens of the camera. It's trying to grab her. It gets its hand around her throat. She just gets her hand on the button that says start, and she says,
"You're terminated, fucker."
She terminates the Terminator. Sarah is the real Terminator in this film. She destroys the Terminator. It's crushed. You get that lovely shot that we mentioned earlier, which is made up of styrofoam tinfoil and a light bulb.
Cigarette smoke and a red LED, yeah.
And a red LED.
It's brilliant.
The light just fades away and the Terminator is finally defeated.
So that's where it would cut to the deleted scene of Reese being loaded into the ambulance, and then the reveal of that it's originally Cyberdyne Systems, but obviously
you get the bit of Sarah being loaded up onto a gurney. You see Kyle being put into the body bag, which is actually Cameron's suit bag.
Yeah.
He didn't have a body bag. He just had this leather suit bag, and he's like, "Yeah, use that." And then she says Kyle, and then they cut it there. And is that when the deleted scene comes in, after she's been taken away?
No, it's a different version of the scene.
Right, so completely different. Okay.
Yeah. And then so they did that version instead, and then obviously the cut to the highway in Mexico, or the gas station.
I love this final scene. It's just so colorful compared to what we've had, because the film's color palette, obviously it's shot over like mostly nighttime,
mostly night shot,
yeah. Very dark blues, purples, silvers, and grays, and touches of greens here. And then you have this lovely sort of golden desert and blue sky. I love that she's driving a Renegade, a Renegade Jeep. She's recording tapes for John, her future son, who she's now pregnant with. Reese is the father, and she,
And that's your kind of holy shit moment, where it's like,
yeah,
yeah, you see them make love, but it's only really then it's confirmed.
yeah.
Yeah, what should I tell you about your father?
This
Will
is
it affect your decision to send him?
this is something that I think they do badly in Dark Fate. Is like in Dark Fate, we'll get to it later, but there is a point where you go, yeah, this is not. I can see what's coming. Whereas with this, I feel like I've always known the plot of Terminator. It's been in my head for so long. I already knew that Kyle was John Connor's son, etc. And
Yeah,
that's
because we saw the second film first.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to imagine if people would have been able to deduce that Kyle
It
was
could
the
catch you
father.
off guard if you were going in totally blind.
I imagine. I hope it would have caught people off guard because it is a big.
It's a cool reveal moment.
Yeah.
But obviously,
Of
it's one of
course-
those films that once you've seen it once, you can't unsee the twists.
Exactly. But it is a lovely moment where she's like, "Oh, should I tell you? Will it affect you knowing your decision, knowing that he is your father? But I will tell you about him because I owe him that." And it's a sweet little moment. And then this little kid comes along. What a little hustler! He's like, "Oh, you're a beautiful lady. I've got this picture for you. Please buy it off me for $5. Otherwise, my dad will beat me."
Beat me.
God, they're tough in Mexico. She's like, "Oh, nice hustle, kid." She
Quattro. She'll give him $4.
Give him $4, and it's the picture John gives Kyle. The circle is complete. The kid then shouts something else.
Allá, viene una tormenta.
And she's like, "Oh, what did he say?" And he's like, "Oh, there's a storm coming." And she ominously says, "I know."
I know.
And then I can't remember whose secretary it was, but someone's secretary drives off the final shot because Linda Hamilton wasn't available that day to film that final shot of the Jeep going off into the distance. So
And
they
I
got
think-
someone's secretary.
I think they were stopped. They were asked by
They were
police or someone what he is doing.
the
And Jim
one-
Cameron is like, my son's filming his college movie
Well,
project here.
it was. I don't think it wasn't Jim Cameron's son. I think it was like the director of photography's
The
son.
second unit.
And he was just there helping out, like setting up the gear. And they hadn't seen a car on this road all day. And just as they're getting ready, police car comes
to
along.
roll, yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, just move that bit out of the road, and yeah, okay, you can film this quick shot." It's like, oh, that's proper guerrilla filmmaking, right there. I love it. Yes, Sarah drives off. The theme music plays, and in some prints of the film, you get a special thanks. Acknowledgement of the works of Harlan Ellison.
Only in more recent releases, DVDs and Blu-ray. Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you know about this whole thing, so why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, like Harlan Ellison, he was a 1950s sci-fi writer thereabouts.
Yeah.
Or I might have my timelines off a bit, timelines, but he wrote, wasn't it an episode of The Outer Limits, the original series?
That's right.
Called The Soldier.
That is right, and it involved two soldiers they're fighting on the future battlefield. They get sent back in time, and
Or was there another story called something with a glass hand is in my head? Devil with a glass hand or Demon with a glass hand was another story that Cameron supposedly ripped off.
Not heard of that one since I've been reading bits and pieces. I only know about the Outer Limits episode, and the only thing that I can tell that there's similarities is about soldiers going back in time. There's no going back in time to change the future.
No cyborgs.
No, they're both real human flesh and blood people. One soldier just get attached to a family he meets and stays with in the past. So there is that element of like, I guess like Reese and Sarah bonding and him fighting not just for the future but to save her, the woman he loves. But apart from that, I don't think there's much.
Any other kind of obvious what's the word? Plagiarism. That's the word.
Ripping offs. No, I don't think so. I think James Cameron's a bit of a douchebag, but I will side with him on this. I think Harlan was just trying to get a bit of money.
A slice of the pie.
Yeah, and Orion Pictures paid him an undisclosed amount of money. What a bastard.
It's like the whole genesis of the whole Terminator stories from Cameron's perspective anyway is the fever dream that he had when he was in Italy
Yeah, when he was filming Piranha 2 and he was really unwell and he dreamt of a cyborg metal skeleton
Metal skeleton out of the
coming out
fire.
of the
Yeah,
flames to get him. Yeah, I side with him on this one. I don't side with him much on stuff, but I'm with him on this. I think it's his idea. Just because you have the idea of a soldier going back in time
doesn't belong to you 100%. Yeah,
No.
it's not like that plot device can never be used again.
And the idea of someone going back in time to change the future, that's a plot device that's been used in so much science fiction now.
Why didn't Spielberg get a cease and desist?
Yeah. Why didn't like Stargate
or Zemeckis? Sorry, I know Spielberg was involved, but
any of these shows and TV and films that have done time travel stuff, it's concepts.
It's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, you got to be very specific if you're going to call him plagiarism, aren't you?
Should we get Ben?
Oh, he'll be back. Like the shit Terminator. There he is.
So, Terminator 1, it made the career of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It pretty much established him from then on, really. I know he did had other stuff, but this is the film that
cemented
him. Like his "I'll be back" is now his catchphrase. That has become synonymous with him. You can't think of Terminator without him, and that's why each subsequent film has had him involved in some form or another.
But also with diminishing returns, because
it was varying returns. Yes. Michael Biehn would go on to do multitude of roles. He's still acting today, but it feels like his star didn't explode as much as it should have done.
Which is a real shame.
Yeah, because he did like Aliens not too long after this, it was not long after this that Aliens came out. Yes, so he starred in this, which would go on to be a highly respected film. He would star in Aliens 2 years later, which was a hotly anticipated sequel to one of the greatest science fiction horror films ever made. But yeah, it was. I don't remember his career ever really elevating beyond that, which is a shame.
The next time you see him is in The Mandalorian.
True, and I've not even seen that yet, believe it or not.
Oh, spoiler.
No, I've already had loads of Mandalorian spoilt for me anyway, so by the time I get around to watching it, I'll have forgotten half of it. That's just how my mind works. So it was released on October 26, 1984, distributed by Orion Pictures, and had 4 or 5 different production companies funding it. Even then,
Coralco, was Geffen Pictures involved as well?
You had Hemdale, Pacific Western Productions, Euro Film Funding, Cinema 84, and I imagine some money out of James Cameron's own pocket as well, because he really believed in this film. And loads. You watch any behind the scenes talking heads interviews with people, they all say he spearheaded every single thing about this. He knew what he wanted, and I wouldn't be surprised if he put some of his own money into it. But made on a budget of 6.4 million, it made worldwide and internationally altogether, it made just shy of 80 million, 78.3 million. That's a pretty damn good return.
That's better returns than cryptocurrency.
That's an amazing return for such a low budget film, and yeah, it's gone on to be it's
juggernaut.
It's selected for preservation in the National Film Registry as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And as we said, solidified Schwarzenegger as a leading action man. From here on, he'd have hits like Predator. He'd obviously do the Terminator 2 sequel, and all the sequels after that. He's still an action star today, appearing in films like The Expendables. He is a legend of action film, and it all started here, really, for him. I think he'd have been known as, a notable 80s, 90s actor, but I don't think he would have skyrocketed.
He wouldn't have kept the momentum into the 90s that he did. Obviously cozying up to Cameron, really, because he made True Lies with him as well then. So you've got 3 Cameron films interspliced, Predators injected in the middle, and which is an absolute masterpiece in its own right.
Yep.
And so without Terminator 1, I really don't think Arnie would have become the big 1990s juggernaut that he did.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have had the strength. He wouldn't have had, not strength, but he has the strength. He wouldn't have had the momentum, I think, rightly to have ridden out some of those more
less favorably received
yeah,
movies
like
that he made.
Junior, particularly, is a pretty bad one.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
you're
like
boy
Twins. I do. I don't mind if Twins is on the TV. I don't turn it off. I'm interested about this potential sequel.
I don't know if you're a boy or a girl, but I'm going to call you Junior. Oh, and he has that CGI nightmare. The baby has his face. It's just,
Yeah, it's creepy.
But he would go on to do one of my favorite films from the 90s, Last Action Hero. Such a wonderful meta, fourth wall breaking sort of critique of Arnie's career.
Yeah,
and the
I
films
love
he
the
did.
Stallone on the T2 cover in the video store.
Like that's how amazing it is. Like within like that just right there, like the Terminator became such a big film and became such an establishing role for Arnie that he became such an iconic action man that they made a film that broke a fourth wall about him being an action star that had referenced the Terminator in it. And that was just within, I think that our Last Action Hero was 1990.
3 or 4?
Yeah. So within 10 years of the Terminator coming out, it's already this, it's made him this huge mainstay they're making self-referential films about him. So
it was almost like Deadpool before its time.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good comparison. So I feel like that in itself is that just says how significant this film is. My personal thoughts on the film rewatching it. Some bits haven't aged hugely well, but like specifically like certain visual shots. But watching it again, I think I've learned to appreciate other bits of it even more, like the small bits of character development with the two police officers and the secondary characters like that. Really looking at this film again in more of a mindset of I'm trying to look deeper into it, and I'm sort of from watching all of the films quite recently in close succession. I noticed something in this which I think is the problem of some of the later films is whose story are we trying to tell here?
Yes, who is the main character?
Are we telling the story of Kyle Reese falling in love with Sarah and becoming the father of the savior? Is it Sarah's story? It's not the Terminator story, even though the film is named after him. But this film is really Sarah's story and her development and her acceptance of her destiny. And the lesson is that no matter how small you might think you are and insignificant you are now, you may have a
bigger role to play in the future.
You will have value in the future. There's always potential of that happening. And I think that's the heart of this film. And it's something I've never really noticed when I was watching it when I was younger, but noticing it more as an adult. And I think that's potentially what loses, especially around like Terminator Genesis. Like whose story is that? Like whose story are we following in that?
It's a mess. Yeah,
it's a mess of a film. That's what I was saying about those. Like this is Sarah's story. It's chapter 1.
100%.
It's chapter 1 of a trilogy of where she's developed each and every time. Regardless of like the flaws in Dark Fate, what they might be, she's still been on this wonderful arc, and it's nice to see that this is the genesis. And when you really realize that and focus on that, I think that really it rounds off this film. It really sort of ties it all together, this journey that she goes on. And even though we don't start with her, we start with the Terminator, we finish with her, and you can see the difference in from the start to the beginning, from the start to the end. And it's just it's a horrific journey she goes on, but
it's not fun.
Knowing what's come, you still have this sort of sense of hope for the future. Like, the storm's coming, I know, but she's going to be ready, you know? love the visuals when they work. The music is great. I think the cinematography, it has that lovely, grimy, dark sort of feeling to it. Really amps up the atmosphere. It's a standout classic. This for me is I want to say it's an 8.5, 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, 8.5, 9 out of 10. It's very few flaws. Again, the only flaws we kind of find in the first film are of their time, visual effects, kind of hurdles they had to get over.
They're
story-wise,
they're
it all
even
works.
I was gonna say, sorry, just effects. I think their effects, the ones that don't work, I think they are just ones that wouldn't have even passed as well even back then, and have aged really bad by today's standards. You know what I mean? But the ones that still work today are lovely.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
No, it's the sum of all its parts. Like, it's very hard to pin down what makes because on paper when they were making it, it's B movie-ish. The tone is really, it just seems like another slasher film if you were to read the screenplay. And Arnie said himself, upon watching some of the dailies, a week or two into shooting, he was just like, no, there's something different here. This is something really, really special.
Yeah, didn't he famously say, like, early on, like, someone asked him, what are those boots over there for? Oh, it's for a shitty movie I'm doing. It'll be done in a couple of weeks.
Because nobody thought it would be the hit it was. And there's just something about science fiction movies in the 80s where they just took themselves super seriously. But even when, like, RoboCop, another example, it's a satire. Masquerading as a super serious action, almost body horror movie, almost, because
it's what Paul Verhoeven's known for. Like, let's look at Starship Troopers. That's a satirical film masquerading as a war movie.
And Total Recall as well. I like to think of those three films as like they're not connected, but they're like a little Verhoeven trilogy of just, even though Troopers is 94, 95.
About that, yeah.
When people use the phrase cyberpunk, I do think more Blade Runner. But there is, I know Cameron wants to put his own tech noir name on it, but I'd listen to scores from all the different Terminator films daily, maybe every second day. Or I'd go through a little phase, whereas like this week it's the T2 soundtrack, and there's some good music from the later films. But it just, nothing captures it like the first film, just that haunting vibe of something's approaching and it's going to kill you.
Well, we'll come. I'll mention it when we talk Terminator 2. But the opening credits of that, the more softer version of that opening theme with the sort of orchestral
strings
sort of
added in,
strings backing it. Yeah, that's obviously signifying, I think, a maybe more softer tone to how the Terminator would be perceived by John and Sarah by the end of the film. The fatherly figure that he never had.
Absolutely, it's humanizing him more.
In this, it's pure. This is the only film when Arnie is pure evil Terminator Arnie. This is the T-800 being a T-800 T-101 model. This is it's doing its mission. This is when the music is at its hardest.
Most sinister.
Yes, absolutely. So credit to Brad Fiedel for that. It's a quality that would be missed later on.
It's the fact that the score from the first two films was done on synthesizer. It's created on a machine by a man on a machine, and that's what gives it its real punch. Especially the T3 score literally just tries to do an orchestral version of the opening theme of Terminator 2, and it just never worked.
I don't know if there's any more we can say on this. We've kind of just
we've exhausted ourselves.
We've exhausted ourselves. We've praised it to the moon.
But that's going to change as we work through the films.
Oh yeah, it gradually gets worse after the next one. That's about it. Retro, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
If you like your retro gaming and you like gaming in general, and if you like Twitch, go follow Retro at twitch.tv/RetroGhost1985. Yeah, I got it in one. Lovely.
I haven't streamed in a while, but I am getting back to it.
You will be getting back to it soon. Good.
And if anyone wants to chat Terminator or movies in general, or video games, or console modding, or custom Lego building, I build a lot of sci-fi and movie themed Lego sets. and models. You'll find me on Twitter at RetroGhost1985 and Instagram at RetroGhost1985.
There you go. You heard it from the man himself. And me, I don't do any of that Instagram stuff, but I do tweet. So you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/stream_Gene. And you can find me at twitch.tv/stream_Gene as well. I play mostly open world games. I mostly play open world games, mostly. Sorry, that's a different franchise.
That's a different franchise.
That's a different franchise altogether. So, next time, we will carry on with Terminator 2. So, from Retro, it's goodbye. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And
I'll be back.
Oh, damn it, you ruined it.
I got in before you.
I'll be back.